Hello and welcome back. It is Monday. I am Mr. Sesotris, and this week I wanted to talk about Harry Potter. So Harry Potter was one of those fandoms that took a lot of us in a chokehold for a very long time when we were younger. Um, we would read the books, we would watch the movies, there would be like online role play, there would be reading and writing fan fiction. It was a mega thing. It was just a phenomenon, and we were all kind of sucked into it when we were younger, like junior high, high school. And there's still a lot of people who really enjoy it and love it. But the series has just kind of not become a very fun and welcoming place to remain. There's issues with the books themselves. There's lots of kind of bizarre racist elements, and there's lots of fat phobia throughout it. And there's also that bizarre subplot where you've got sort of a race of beings who are slaves, and they're happy to be slaves, and the one character who stands up with them is sort of laughed at for being like a woke SJW. And then on top of all of that, you've got the author themselves, who is just actively harming kind of the trans community by putting forward, untruths and conspiracy theories, and donating to anti-trans organizations, and just kind of gone off the deep end, and has just become a very harmful person. And then the latest sort of bizarre tentacle in this monster is sort of denying aspects of the Holocaust, which is it's just gone off the deep end, and it's just not, the fandom just isn't fun anymore, and the world doesn't feel safe. It's not something that, is inclusive anymore. It's just become kind of a nightmare. And so I wanted to talk about books that capture that same sort of feel, for people who kind of want to step away from that world, but still kind of want something that has similar, the similar feel to it in different ways. And no book is ever going to capture that same feeling you had when you were a kid and reading it for the first time, but there are things that you can read that kind of have a similar sort of aesthetic, that you can read as an adult, that kind of allow you to engage in kind of all the things that you loved about the series, divested from all of the kind of hateful aspects of the books and of their creator. Now, one series that I see recommended a lot is Ursula K. Le Guin's Earthsea trilogy, or Earthsea books. There's 5 books. And I don't know if these would really work as a replacement for that series. On their own, they're fantastic, but they're very much, they've got sort of a, like a lone adventurer sort of feel, going out and discovering things in this sort of island world with lots of boats, that kind of travel around them, and storms and magical beings. There is a magical school in the first book, in like a part of it, but that's not a main focus. And so when I see people kind of recommending this, it's like, I would recommend this to people who grew up reading things like Treasure Island, and they really love that kind of stuff. So this is a great series, and it's aimed at younger people. I think, she was aiming it at kind of teenagers, so it's sort of YA, but it's a rich world. It's great. It's really well written, but it's very different from kind of the aesthetic of sort of the Harry Potter universe. So I don't know if I would really suggest this as a replacement, but I would suggest it just as a series on its own, because it's a great world to get lost in. If you're looking for something aimed at young people that has kind of that whimsical, magical vibe, and the kind of sense of wonder and mystery, I would say check out the Oz books. The original books by L. Frank Baum, I think he wrote like 14, and there's other books that were kind of continuing the series, but it's a great world. It's magical, it's fun. If you've only seen the movie, definitely check out the books, because it's quite different. It's a lot more violent, it's a lot scarier. There's a lot more to it. And in some of the later books, you've got this great character named Ozma, who in like the early 1900s is when it was written, acts as kind of a really nice sort of metaphor for sort of transgender experience, and it's a great series, and it's great. There's lots to analyze, lots of lore, and it's just magical and fun. And it's aimed at that younger crowd, so if you want something that's sort of got that childlike wonder to it, this is definitely one that I'd recommend. Now, if you like Oz, but you're an adult and you want something that's a little meatier, there's the Wicked books. Now, there's 4 books in the series. There's Wicked, Lion Among Men, Wicked, Son of a Witch, Lion Among Men, and Out of Oz. And it's the same Oz world. It's got that kind of, I don't know, dark fantasy sort of feel to it, but it's complex, and there's lots of politics and philosophy and great character arcs. It's not as nice and neat and squeaky clean as the musical is. It's a lot grimier, and there's a lot more adult stuff in these. But it's definitely got that kind of feel, that kind of dark fantasy, unrests, fighting for a cause, lots of great world building that draws from the original Oz books, so definitely check out the Wicked books. There's 4 of them, and they are great. Moving on, if you're looking for kind of that sense of the kind of secondary world that you travel through via portal, if your favorite aspect of the original books is sort of Diagon Alley or even Nocturne Alley, then I would say Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman is a great option. This is sort of an Alice in Wonderland-esque kind of thing, where a character from the normal world kind of stumbles into this sort of slightly magical, mystical, dark underground world, filled with people and creatures that don't live in the real world. So it's spooky, got lots of atmosphere, and it's a lot of fun. I really like this one. Now, I talk about this one a lot, but we're going to talk about it again. If you like the whole magical world, learning about, learning your place in a new magical environment, learning the rules of the magic, lots of complex lore and history, and a great villain, and characters you may or may not be able to trust, lots of morally gray people. That's the Daevabad trilogy, and I talk about this so much because I love it a ton, but this is definitely just a great magical world with lots of lore, and it's also fun. It's dark, but it's not like grimdark. It's a magical world that actually allows itself to be magical. I love the parts where the main character is sort of working in this magical hospital and all the different strange ailments that they have to kind of find a way to cure. And it's great, and I love it. So would recommend this one as well. It has that sense of scope and wonder. Now, this next one is not fantasy, but it definitely has the feel that a lot of the Harry Potter books have, especially in the real world. If you love hating evil characters like the Dursleys or Dolores Umbridge, then this would be definitely an author to check out for. Rowling borrowed a lot of her kind of aesthetic in terms of naming and kind of exaggerated characters from Charles Dickens. And if you read Charles Dickens, you will see a lot of the same kind of things. You've got sort of over-the-top characters. He calmed down a little bit in his later books, but in David Copperfield and Oliver Twist, you definitely see, characters like Fagin and the Artful Dodger. It's just, these are definitely books that I would recommend. Oliver Twist, you've got the orphan who's alone facing a cruel world who's out to get him. Nobody understands him. He doesn't know who to trust, and he just has to kind of survive in the kind of dark alleyways of an English city. And this is definitely, if you like the kind of, boy under the cupboard kind of thing, where you just wish that he could find someone who could take care of him and who would give him a life that was meaningful, then this is the book for you. David Copperfield is for the ones who really, really love Molly Weasley um, and love the kind of, you know, if she ever tore to shreds verbally someone who is being unkind um, to Harry, this is the book here, because there's definitely a Molly Weasley-esque character in here, and there's some really awful, hateful, love to hate them bad guys that are just cruel and awful, and you just can't wait until they get what's coming to them. All the while, you've got a young man growing up and discovering, you know, what he loves about life and what he can do, and learning who to trust, and just, it's a coming of age story, and it's wonderful. And so these are definitely books that I would suggest if you like the sort of, you know, the outrageous characters and the, you know, surviving ridiculous situations. These are definitely ones I'd recommend. Next up, if your favorite aspect of the Harry Potter universe is sort of sneaking around Hogwarts and uncovering secrets in dark hallways, R.F. Kuang's Babel is definitely one that I would recommend. This is set in kind of an alternate Oxford and at 1800s, and they're going to a magical school, and the magic system is very cool. There's lots of talk of like colonialism and cultural appropriation, but at the same time you've got secret societies, and you've got secrets and mysteries and standing up for injustice, and it's a great complex world to get drawn into. And if you like that kind of, you know, dark magical school feel, this is definitely a book that you will love. Next up is a book that I am actually currently reading. I'm like 100 pages away from the end, and that is The Once and Future Witches by Alex Harrow. This is for everyone who loves the witchy witchcraft, magical animals, spells, magical secrets, creepy villains with a face behind a face, and standing up for injustice and great queer representation. There's lots of feminine rage in this one, and sisterhood and secret societies and magic, and it's just delightful. The feel is very dark fairy tale set in kind of an alternate history. It's set in like America, and think like, you know, in the aftermath of the Salem witch trials, moving into like, you know, late 1800s, early 1900s, that kind of area. And magic is sort of something that's secret and hidden, and so all the people who can practice magic have to do so in their own kind of secret way. And there's mysteries and complex characters and just beloved characters that I just really loved. Everyone has great arcs, and it's very satisfying. And finally on this list is a manga, and that is Witch Hat Atelier. And this one is definitely got that kind of magical wonder, complex spells. There's just so much in here that is just beautiful and dark at the same time. It's just, there's lots of whimsy, and the magical system is very cool, and it's definitely something where like you can kind of learn the rules of the magic as the character progresses and learns themselves. It's so great. It's wonderful. It's ongoing, and definitely would recommend, because the vibes are perfect. There's a part where she walks into like a magical store in the first issue, and the feeling is very much like, you know, walking into Flourish and Blots or something like that. So would recommend this, definitely. And so I'm sure there's a ton of other books out there and series that would definitely appeal to that same kind of feel. These are just ones that I've read and that I enjoyed. But anytime we're talking about sort of a problematic author, I do want to specify that the only reason that I'm saying, you know, let's move away from this particular author is because they are actively causing harm nowadays. They're still sort of actively hurting people. Someone like H.P. Lovecraft, who is also very problematic. His work is filled with xenophobia and racism, and he was just a very difficult person. he's no longer with us. And so we can analyze his books, we can read them, we can pick them apart, critique them, explore kind of the good aspects of what we liked about his world, and kind of leave the hateful stuff behind. There's other authors who are able to retell his works, and focus on more complex issues. And so the Lovecraft thing, he is also kind of a bad person, but he's not actively causing harm. He's no longer with us. He can't hurt anyone. And so, you know, it's fine. And also, if you still love the Harry Potter books and movies and whatever, you can still read them and watch the movies and whatever, you know, in your own time. But I'm just talking about the things that we kind of like advertise online, the things that we talk about and the things that we get other people into. I wouldn't say this is like the Harry Potter fandom is something that I'd want to like get more people interested in, because I just don't want the money of like, you know, books and memorabilia and all that stuff to go towards the creator, because the creator is just actively hurting trans people and perpetuating some really bizarre conspiracy theories and untruths. So, you know, if you still have the books on your shelf or the movies on your shelf, I'm not saying you're a terrible person, but just be aware of kind of what your support of the fandom and of the creator means, and make that decision for yourself. So definitely something to be aware of. But, you know, that's for you to decide. But with that said, these books are wonderful. This collection that I've gone through, I'm sure there's more. If there's other books that you feel capture that same feeling, definitely let me know in the comments, because I'd love to kind of expand my kind of repertoire. There is a lot about the original Harry Potter series that is engaging and fun if you kind of, you know, pick out the nasty bits. And there is something to be said about welcoming inclusive fandoms. By the way, if you're looking for kind of an inclusive, welcoming, progressive fandom that's fun and filled with its own drama and everything, definitely check out the Doctor Who fandom. I'm a big fan of a bunch of different things, but Doctor Who recently has really proven that they're kind of standing up for what's right, and they have great representation, fun characters, complex lore. The fandom is a ton of fun, and if you're looking for kind of a new fandom to come to, the Doctor Who world is definitely always welcoming new people. So with that said, I will let you go. I'll talk to you next week, and in the meantime, happy reading. Bye!